And you are listening to Cartoon Buffoons with me, Vin Forte, and...
me, Mady G. Back at it again.
Oh, no, that's last year's meme. We can't... No,
it will never die.
What are those kids up to now?
Getting their head hit on signs still. flipping in the donut shop. Getting their head whacked on the signs. Someday that kid needs to meet the I got my hat on backwards and it's time to fucking party guy, and they'll compare head injuries.
I love that Back at It Again at Krispy Kreme clip. That's maybe my favorite of, like, God, I even cringe saying this, but, like, the Vine era of memery.
The Vine era has never left. Like, I love Vine. Welcome to Mady and Vin's Vine cast.
Yeah, we're just gonna do
about our favorite vines.
Guess what? This is our last episode. We're gonna switch to Vine.
We're gonna switch to vines. Welcome to Chili's.
Oh my God. Well,
random. XD random.
Oh, hey, MLG Pronoscope. Funk Flex.
Excuse me while I lick all the Cheeto dust off my fingers.
Oh my God, what a way to start this episode.
Hi, everyone. Welcome back. Sorry that we did that. You know we had to do it to him.
Yes. Yeah. I can't believe you've done that. Okay, we're going to stop. This is...
probably peaked the audio so bad. I'm so sorry.
This is getting out of control. We got to stop.
Time to talk about
cartoons.
Specifically,
we're going to talk about two things. We're going to start with Mr. Osomatsu.
Oh, Osomatsu-San.
Osomatsu-San, and then we're going to talk about Mission Hill.
That's going to be in part 2 of the episode.
Yeah, so let's jump right into it, because we're going to talk about Mr. Osomatsu.
Well, Osomatsu-San is the Japanese name for it. Yeah, but I guess on Crunchyroll it says Mr. Osomatsu. But that's the translation, so I'm just splitting hairs.
And this might be the more... I mean, they're both, like, could be seen as fairly obscure shows this episode, but I think if people listening in America might be a little more familiar if they're into animation and comedy with Mission Hill. What is... I don't know. I think it's a toss-up. I have no idea.
Yeah, because Osomatsu-san... the anime came out, I think, what was it, in 2015?
Is it still going?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. The second season, I think, ended recently.
Okay. Well, basically, this show is something that you told me about. I had never heard about it. And I looked up one image, and you might as well have told me, hey, Vin, I just completed this animation pilot. Here, take a look at it. And I would go, yes, that makes sense.
I'm so flattered, but yeah, I mean, it's just a really, really, really visually unique show. First of all, the line art being blue gets me so hype. I love that, and it's so interesting, and it drew me in right away. But also, the character designs are so cute. Just some of the keyframes are just really hilarious, like the key poses, and the facial expressions are amazing. The colors, the story, it's also super relatable, especially for people around our ages, as 20 somethings.
Well, what's the deal with the show? Because you told me about it. I watched the first episode. I'm still confused. I loved it, but was it a different show originally, years ago?
Yes. So it started out as, I think, Osomatsu-kun, which is, so to just clear it up, translator's note or whatever. So san is the honorific used in Japanese to denote
Mr.
respect, or it's generally for an adult that you don't know.
Right.
you use san. If you know them really, really well, they might like drop the honorific or change it to something like kun, which is generally masculine in honorific for like endearment. So like I could call you like Vin kun because you're like a good friend of mine, you know, stuff like that. So in the original show, it took place in the in the Showa era, which is when it was airing. So the Showa era, I believe, is after the Meiji era, I believe, and it's Showa era is kind of like to compare it to American history, like the 20s through the like 50s, and I think I want to look up the exact dates of the Showa era.
But the show itself aired in the 80s.
No. There were multiple versions of it.
Okay.
Yeah, so the Showa period so the Showa period ran from 1926 to 1989. So it's a very long period. Yeah. So Japanese history corresponds generally with whoever's in power. So like the under the reign of Emperor Hirohito. In this particular.
But just to be clear, you're like, so the show itself, not the timeline within the show, but the show itself lasted that long in different forms.
No. The show, no. I'm saying that style, so there was a certain style of animation and a certain style of comedy that was really popular during that time. Just like how, you know, like think about like the golden age of animation so like Mickey Mouse. And like old Looney Tunes and stuff like that. So the original Osomatsu was kind of like one of those shows.
Okay.
So it was like kind of like a beloved, like, you know, fun kind of for the family like cartoon with like these 6 brothers who all look the same, who are like getting into mischief. You know, it like a good wholesome fucking cartoon. And let's see, it started as a manga, I believe, because I don't know so much about the original series. Yeah, it ran. Yeah, there was an anime series that ran in the 80s, but the original run was 1966. Oh no, 62 to 69.
Okay,
is the manga. 62 to 69. The first anime ran 1966 to 67. The next anime ran 1988 to 1989. And then there was a film in 1989. Okay. And then so there was the reboot in 2015.
Okay, so that clears it up a lot more then, because in the first episode, it starts out in like black and white, and it's sort of like they're reawakening from, you know, this like 25-year, you know, sleep or whatever. Yeah. And they're like, oh, they want to reboot us, or they want to like bring us back. And they're kind of like, well, we can't, you know, do the things that we used to do. It's like you kind of get the sense that like, oh, it's a new era, it's a new time in history, like we got to change at the times. And they're like, oh, we got an idea. And it cuts to them like as this really like hot anime boy band.
Yeah, F6.
but then like you think, oh, they're like, this is a good joke, like they're like, this is how they're like, it's a commentary on them sort of rebooting the series, but then the rest of the episode is this like hot, really detailed anime squad like going to school.
But then it just like fucking.
But then it folds in on itself.
Yeah, it. But then wait? So did you only watch episode 1?
Yes.
No. Okay, so anyone who's listening to this podcast who's seen the show is like probably like clawing their face off
right now because I know, because at the end of the episode they tip their hat to the fact that like this is not like any other episode that we're about to do.
Yeah.
But you get a sense of the weirdness that's about to come, which is like why I'm excited.
But you don't get a sense of any of the boys.
No.
Okay, so all right. So let's take a break from the history of this and let's just talk about the individual boys. So I guess instead of being like a more in-depth discussion about this anime, it's probably going to be more of like a primer if you want to go watch it yourself. So let's start by identifying the brothers.
Okay, because I've also watched a bunch of clips of it, to be fair, and it's really like the kind of humor it projects is really up my alley. It is very absurd, very like someone gets the first clip I saw of it was someone gets their nipples cut off, and then everyone laughs at them.
Yeah, it's a good old fashioned gag anime. It's just a really nice. Oh man, there's a figure that I see in this Google search I have up that I really want. I'm going to bookmark that. But yeah, all right. So I'm going to go down the line, and because each brother has a very distinct personality, and so this was something that is kind of made from the new show, because in the older shows they were a lot more like the same. They had like more subtle differences. They weren't like different colors and like with really distinct archetypes.
Yeah,
like they are now, but I think that adds a bit to the fun. So there is the oldest brother. So they're sextuplets, so they're all the same age, but like I guess they popped out in an order that matters. So the firstborn is Osomatsu, who is the red one, and he is like confident, kind of like an everyday kind of like schmucky guy, like a good-natured douchebag. That's kind of an oxymoron. But that kind of like lovable idiot, like kind of like charismatic douche kind of character.
You know what? Oddly enough, not to cut you off, one of two instances of douchebag that will have to come up this episode. We'll get to that later.
Well, like that's why I just like figured that the two shows would really go well next to each other. But yeah, so yeah, I would say that Osomatsu and Andy probably would share a few traits, except Osomatsu I'd say is a bit more cheerful.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, so then that brings us to the second, who is the blue one, Karamatsu, who is like the vain kind of wannabe bad boy type, but he's he wears like glitter pants and has like his eyebrows super perfectly done, and he's like always flirting with girls and stuff, but he it's the kind of like masking his low self-esteem kind of thing, which is just like the jam. He wears like fancy color like circle lenses, like the color contacts that make your eyes bigger. Like it's a gag in the show. But he's like trying to be the pretty boy, trying to be the bad boy. But everyone recognizes that he's trying too hard, so like he'll like posture and pose and like do something that he thinks is super cool, and everyone else is like, oh, it's painful, oh it's so bad, oh god, like the secondhand embarrassment brother basically. And I love him, and he's definitely up there as far as faves of mine. He's really funny and just the kind of archetype that I love, which is just like vain idiot. And then there's the third brother, who's Choromatsu, who's the green one, and he's like very nerdy, very like very Double D-ish, but a bit more like perverse, where he's really into like idols and like cute girls, like Totoko, I believe. Yeah, I haven't. Oh God. So my brain is like, no, Totoko is Totomatsu's girl. Okay, that comes later. Okay, shit, fuck.
There's a lot to unpack with this show.
I know. I don't know why I'm a big douchebag, because I'm forgetting the names of all the characters. The girl. Why am I? No, because I know her name. Totoko. God. Stupid. Her name is Totoko instead of Todoko. Todoko is from another episode where there's like a one-off sketch where they're all like quote unquote gender swapped. So like the brothers are like sisters instead. And Totomatsu, the youngest brother's name is Totoko, but that I just like, oh God. I'm kicking myself for how off topic that went, and like, oh boy. Okay, so we're back. Now, hey, okay, everyone listening, this is what it's like in my brain all the time. So Choromatsu is really into, well, they're all into Totoko, but like he is like very nerdy, very into like pop stars, anime, like, you know, like the otaku kind of character.
Yeah.
Shire, big nerd. Then there's Ichimatsu, who is next, who is purple. He's the like very depression-y one. He loves cats secretly. He is very like dark. He has like messy hair. If you compare his hair to the other brothers, his hair is kind of like scruffy. He's like the depression one basically, and he's very relatable, and he's like very dark and will say like dark things. He's charming in that way. And then there is Jushimatsu, who's kind of like Ed, if we're talking about Ed, and Eddie, where he's like the happy, big, goofy, like silly one, flapping, just good, wholesome, silly boy. He always has a big smile, and he really loves baseball.
Yeah, I'm looking at him right now. He seems like a little goofy boy. And
he's really buff also, I believe.
Yeah, I'm looking at his... Oh, God, he's got those buff boy arms.
Yeah, he's like the athlete, the like happy-go-lucky athlete one.
He's got that Donkey Kong physique going on.
Yeah, he's got the Donkey Kong physique. And then there is my dog. Every time I record, she's upset that I don't pay attention to her.
Aww.
It's very cute. I know. But yeah, then the last brother is Totomatsu, who's the one that sparked my whole confusion a moment ago. And he's the he's the sweet baby brother. So Vin and I were talking about Mabim Bam earlier.
And it's funny you say that, because I'm looking at clips of Osomatsu-San, and there's one that's like my brother, and me. And it's like someone took audio of like a clip from Mabim Bam and like put it over like animation that they did of Osomatsu-San.
Oh, that's so funny. Okay, so for those of you listening who don't know what my brother and me is, it's a very good podcast. Look it up. I'm surprised if you haven't heard of it by now. If you're into cartoons, it fits your demographic, I think.
And also, this is completely unrelated to anything, but I'm gonna play. I haven't played this yet. I'm curious to play it into the mic. It's just something that says Osomatsu-San best screams and outbursts.
All right, you know what? Let's go. Let's capture the.
Let's do it.
Yeah.
By the way, the subtitles say, "Are there really no oil magnates? I really want an oil magnate."
Oh, I heard that word. God. It's really fun, like, hearing it without seeing the visual. It's just like this shrieking. The voice acting is really good, too. Like, the voice acting is so expressive, and, like, I feel like at some point they're gonna have to dub it in English, because it's, like, very popular here. But at the same time, I just don't know how they're gonna get it the same.
Every one of them just vomited up their entire color.
Oh God, yeah, because they play with visuals a lot. Like,
is that Barack Obama?
What'd you say?
the Barack Obama just showed up, and he's got a mustache.
Oh yeah, there was a period of time where Obama would show up in a lot of anime.
I just like the subtle inclusion of like he's got a mustache in this.
Yeah, I never understood that.
It looks like they kind of made him look. I'm gonna stop this now. They kind of made him look like that picture from that 80s magazine of like, this is what Michael Jackson's gonna look like in 20 years.
Okay.
He's just like this suave motherfucker with like a little thin beard with a thin mustache.
That's so not accurate.
No, it's a great picture. You should all look it up.
Oh, man. But yeah, okay, so Osomatsu, yeah, very vibrant anime. It's just part of my favorite genre of anime, which is gag anime, which are basically like, I guess one could compare them to kind of like Adult Swim shows where it's all very, very like sketch-based, kind of joke, wordplay, punchline-y, or
a lot of like breaking the internal logic.
Yeah, like we were talking about on our Ed, Edd n Eddy episode. Like I think that Osomatsu-San does a lot of the same things where they'll like kind of break fourth wall or like bring visual elements into the story in like kind of surreal ways, and that makes it super fun to watch. And like characters will change appearance drastically and like morph for like specific bits, and it's very fun. It's kind of like animated sketch comedy in a lot of ways, and I think just overall the gag manga and gag anime genre is just a blast to behold. It's more similar to American cartoons, I'd say, than like the longer themed like the longer anime stories that are more like, I guess, comparable to American TV shows like Hannibal or something.
Yeah, and what do you think, Nori?
She is chasing the cat.
I was going to say, she is clopping around up there on that hardwood floor.
I apologize to listeners. I live in a very small apartment, so there's not a... She's got to get her yayas out somewhere, and it happens to be where I'm recording, so I apologize.
Oh, God, I like that. I love that expression, get your yayas out.
That's what it is. You got to get your yayas out.
Oh, man. Well, I am certainly primed and pumped to watch Osomatsu-San. And it is readily available, like, pretty much everywhere you'd think to find it legally and illegally, so...
Oh, don't advocate for anything. You could watch clips on Crunchyroll.
Yeah.
You could watch all of season 2, I believe, full episodes on Crunchyroll. But for season 1, which you really should start with, they only have clips. So, for free anyway. So if you subscribe to Crunchyroll, which is like, anime streaming, that's where you'd get that. Or, if you have a place where you like to go to get your anime, do that.
Yeah, you should. But I do want to stress you should always support, like, watch it on Crunchyroll. But if you're like me and you've never heard of it and you want to check out the first episode or the first 2 episodes, first one's not great representation of the series going forward. But that said, I'm personally a firm believer in, if you want to check it out, I don't think anyone should stop you. But if you like it, go support it.
Yeah, we here at Cartoon Buffoons, we may be buffoons about cartoons, but we are not buffoons about supporting our creators and artists. So
yeah, don't copy that floppy.
Don't copy that floppy.
Would you steal a car?
Would you download a car? I would. I would download a car.
I always love that. I love that. Like when they would put that before DVDs. Like, would you you wouldn't steal a car, right? It's like, no, that's a weird example. Don't cars are big
it's very weird. It's up there with those like Above the Influence things and like My Anti-Drug and like the thing with the dog. Like, you're not the same when you smoke. Like there's a lot of those. A lot of those like anti-crime PSAs that just get funny. Like Pee-wee Herman, like, this is crack.
I was just gonna say that, like, this is crack.
This is crack. Rock cocaine.
Yeah,
it isn't glamorous, cool, or kid stuff.
Oh my god! Or the what was that one in the 80s where it's like the drug dealer, like his face morphs into like a reptile?
Oh my god! I remember the girl with the egg.
Yeah, this is your brain on drugs.
This is your brain on drugs. And then she like whacks up her whole house with the ban.
It's like, wow, you really ruined your house. And you're not even on drugs when you're doing this. Like, maybe you should take drugs. Like,
maybe you should see a psychiatrist.
Yeah. Be responsible.
Maybe you should see a psychiatrist.
Yeah, don't whack your pans all over the house.
That's a good cast iron. Season it. Use it. Cook. Take your frustration out by cooking.
Yeah, season that pan.
Season that pan.
Season that floppy. I've been on, this is again completely unrelated. I've been on a very big kick, sort of in that same vein, of looking up old 900 number commercials. And,
oh boy.
And oh my god, there's one that's like super baffling, where it's like 1-900-490-CRY. And and before I clicked on it, I was like, oh, this must be something where, like, it kind of makes sense. Like, oh, if you're alone and you're depressed and you just, like, want someone to cry to, like, you call this number and there's probably, like, an operator on the other line. You could just let it all out. No. What it is, I'm just going to play it for you. Because the visual is great, because it's, like, good, it's, like, bad fake acting of people crying. But, give me 2 seconds.
I think this is what all of the Matsuno brothers could really use, is a number for crying. I'm just trying to figure out a way to tie it into the
Here it is.
episode.
Okay, here it is. You're gonna hear people crying, and then you're gonna hear what their cell is. It's only 30 seconds. Okay.
All right.
What makes people all over America break down and cry like this? Call 1-900-9099-CRY and hear it for yourself. $2 for the first minute, 45 cents each additional minute. If you're under 18, ask your parents before you call.
Oh, I know what this is.
9099-CRY.
What is
This
it?
is something where they probably make you cry.
Yeah, but like, what is it? But like, genuinely, like, what is it on the other line that's like making these people cry?
You gotta call and find it for yourself, man.
But like,
No,
what
but
could
I
they be
think it's like
telling
they
them?
probably like send you a sad, like read a sad story or something and like make you cry if you need like a catharsis or something.
I guess, but like, what if you don't cry? Do you get your money back? And like,
Maybe it's like a cry guarantee.
yeah,
Maybe they bully you. I don't know, man.
and it's like, if you're under 18, ask your parents, hey, Dad, can I call the cry line? I gotta find out what's making these people cry.
I gotta find out what's making these people cry.
There's that. There's
What's making them cry is how off topic we've been this episode.
I know. There was that. I saw there was another one where it was like, is Elvis still alive? Like, hear the proof.
Oh. Like, that's the proof. There he is. That's his ghost.
It's his ghost. Okay, I'm gonna play you one more.
What are you doing?
I don't know. Okay. I know we're getting...
This isn't like Vin's like happy YouTube findings hour.
Okay. Okay, I'm not gonna play...
Talking about anime. Vin,
Yes.
we're supposed to be doing a podcast episode about an anime. We're talking about anime. We have to talk about our anime.
Yes. No more crying.
I'm gonna cry. This is why they make people cry.
That's why they make people cry. They're like... you call up and they're like, you want to hear a podcast about anime? Like, yeah.
You call up, they're like, you want to hear a bunch of YouTube clips through
Yeah.
someone else's microphone. It's like, make it stop.
I know, it's just turned into like the meme menagerie podcast or something.
No, and like here, let me just be real with this. So Osomatsu-San is really hard to talk about because you can't put a lot of it into words. A lot of it is just visual and like very comedy beat-based humor. We can't really go into too much about it that isn't just like straight up animation history regarding like the original shows, and this is a spinoff, so like, I don't know, whatever. Just watch it. Like, you'll get a lot more out of it from like this weird like roundabout recommendation than I think anything that we could probably tell you about it.
You heard the screams, you heard the crying, you got it.
Yeah, it's a really, really relatable show in a lot of ways. There are so many archetypes. You're bound to identify with at least one of them. The side characters are all an absolute hoot. Iyami is like my kin. Like, I love him so much. He's the one with the big teeth. Watch the show. You'll find out who he is and why he's like hilarious. He's wonderful. It's just a really great show. And you have Nori's endorsement.
Yeah, come on. What more do you need?
What more do you need? And also the intro theme is really, really beautiful.
Yes.
And like the music is great. The ending themes are like stop motion, beautiful. Just a really stellar example of animation. Just like the whole show. So much care has been put into it.
It's a
And I think
beautiful,
that,
expressive show.
yeah, and it's definitely going to, I think, shape anime in the future. I think there's probably going to be a lot more anime taking influence, like artistically, and there already, I would say, have been anime. Like, I think that anime as an art form, people are being more experimental. You know, we have shows like like Osomatsu-San and like Mob Psycho 100, that are really doing new things with the art form in terms of like visuals, and it's really exciting. Speaking as someone who grew up watching anime and like getting frustrated by how, same facey everything can look and how, homogenous it can get.
I'm glad you mentioned that, because I thought it was just me, because there was definitely a point where I was super into anime. Then there was a point where I really fell out, and then tried to jump back in and felt that it's kind of very samey. Like, it wasn't just a case of like, oh, where do I begin again? Do I watch this? Do I need good recommendations? I felt like everything that was recommended to me was just kind of samey.
Yeah, there's an entire era of anime that I just like skipped over personally. Like I've been really into like anime from like the 80s and 90s and like early 2000s, and then between like, I don't know, 2000 and like pretty much from like Naruto onward, I didn't give a shit.
Yeah, that's kind of around the same for me.
Yeah, it's weird, but there are a few that slip through the cracks though.
Oh yeah, but now it just seems like you're saying, a little more expressive. Like you have stuff like Space Dandy and One Punch Man and Osomatsu-San that just have these like really bold sort of looks to them.
Yeah, like very, very distinct stylistic identity, and I think that's very cool. And also like the stories are a bit atypical. The stories are less like, well, it goes back to like I'd say to like 90s anime where there would be a bit more buck wild stories that kind of drew you in. Like when Cowboy Bebop first aired, like that was a huge game changer artistically.
Oh yeah, I remember like here in New York City, you go around the right neighborhoods and there would just be random TVs with, Cowboy Bebop on. And it always used to like pique my interest a little bit. Like, oh wow, like there's this one specific show that is kind of on like everyone's radar right now.
Yeah. And then also stylistically, I would say in terms of impact, I think Osomatsu-San feels like it could have a similar impact to like FLCL stylistically. So like those like Gainax anime that really pushed shapes and color. I think Osomatsu-San is doing similar stuff. And same with Mob Psycho, especially playing with media. So like I think Mob Psycho put in a lot more like digital meets traditional illustration elements. And it's so exciting. It's so exciting. And, I think people are talking about Devilman Crybaby, which I still haven't seen. But Masaki Yuasa, the director.
Did you say, let's back up for a second. Devilman Crybaby?
Yeah.
What is that?
You're gonna have to go watch it to find out. I gotta Google it and look it up on Netflix. Yeah, and now it's time for our commercial break.
Yeah, and I'll throw in a 900 number and we'll use that as a break, because why not? I'm
throwing a 900. Oh, get out of here!
It's the freak phone, and here's the party freak, Freddy Freaker, dancing new sensation, grabbing the nation, doing the freak. Call now, 1-900-490-FREAK. Join the party, the fast and easy way to hear what's scamming from New York to LA. Call now, 1-900-490-FREAK. What's happening? What's jamming? Party till you drop. Dial and hear the action. What's hot and what's not? Call now, 1-900-490-FREAK. $2 a call.
And we're back, so call 1-900-490-FREAK.
1-900-490-FREAK.
Friday Freaker. It's like
Freak's gonna take me to church.
Freak's gonna take me to church. Yeah, so that was Freddy Freaker.
Oh, I don't know about you. I'm feeling the love for Jesus Christ.
Yeah, I feel blessed. I feel baptized, and I feel ready to go.
All right, I've been baptized by the freak, and I'm ready to talk about Mission Hill.
So Mission Hill is a show that we both love. It's basically, if you enjoy prime Simpsons, like mid-90s Simpsons, there's a chance that you are already familiar with Bill Oakley and Josh Weinstein. Weinstein?
I think I don't know. Whoever knows. I think Weinstein.
I think it's Weinstein, actually.
Oh,
Weinstein.
shit. Well, maybe I'm
going to say Weinstein. I don't like saying Weinstein because of the current connotations.
Oh, yeah, and then we'll do Weinstein then.
We'll just say Weinstein, but if it's Weinstein, my apologies to Josh Weinstein. But, so Bill Oakley and Josh Weinstein were showrunners and writers for The Simpsons for a couple seasons there in the mid-90s, putting out some of their best stuff, seasons 6, 7, and 8. And once they left The Simpsons, they created a show called Mission Hill for the WB that had this very, sort of postmodern, almost like a satire of, hipster culture from that time aesthetic to it. And it had all of that humor that they had from The Simpsons carried over to this new show that they were doing. And it was sort of very progressive and modern in its own way, and kind of broke new ground, which is why it became kind of like a cult hit. Now, the story behind why it failed and why it only had 15 or so episodes on WB before eventually finding a second life on Adult Swim, where they just sort of reran it all the time, which was a trend with Adult Swim. They did that with the Oblongs as well. And
I love the Oblongs,
yes,
frankly.
And with home movies, and then they actually picked up more of home movies. But that's a whole different.
And then Bob's Burgers happened, and that's a whole other can of worms.
Yeah. But Mission Hill, basically, when they sold it to the WB, and if you want to, not to toot my own horn, but I actually interviewed Bill Oakley.
Oh yeah, listen to Vin's other podcast, Anytime with Vin Forte. He did an episode with Bill Oakley, and if you're interested in Mission Hill, or if this episode piques your interest, that's a really good follow-up listening. So
yeah, definitely check that out. That's
Open a new tab.
Yeah, that's episode 15. I'll put the link in the description here on YouTube. But he tells the story about how Mission Hill flopped at WB, because basically at that time they were not yet, kind of for lack of a better way of putting it, the teen girl network. They didn't know that's what they were going to be quite yet. So they had this comedy in Mission Hill, but the other comedies that they had on their network were all these comedies targeted towards the African American demographic. But in their mind, it was well, we have to program comedies of comedies. That just makes sense. So Mission Hill was the lead-off on their night of these African American comedies. So it was 8 p.m. was Mission Hill, but then the rest of the night...
Which is, frankly, one of the whitest shows on the planet in a lot of ways.
Yeah, and then, that was kicking off their night of, the Jamie Foxx show and, the Parkers and whatever else they had going on.
It's time. You got In Living Color with Jim Carrey smack in the middle. It's you have a lot of, black-eared, comedy and, comedy from black writers and black comedians. And then you have, a kind of, glaringly white kind of show, but also, Outcast. Where it can kind of, it's not on, a snooty level.
Right. It just didn't make sense in that slot. If you were programming TV, and they had one night that they did comedy, because WB, especially at that time, was not a big network, and that's where
it's certainly not a big network now. It doesn't exist.
Right. Right. Exactly. It's all CW'd up. It's the superhero network now, and but back then, they kind of didn't have an identity, but they had this identity on Friday nights that was geared more towards black people. Except for this extremely white show that was lampooning primarily white hipster culture.
Oh yeah, no. So what? I mean, which may honestly, I don't know. So I'm a pretty white motherfucker, and I'm not really sure exactly if Mission Hill has any following with specifically black cartoon fans. because like, you know, like I have friends of mine who are into it, but like I don't know any specifically, like if any of like my friends who are Black like identify with it in the same way as like some of my like white artist friends do, because I think that like it makes fun of whiteness a lot.
It
and
does.
like white stereotypes in it, which is interesting. And I didn't expect this conversation to like be about race, but like if you think about it, like, yeah, Mission Hill really lampoons a lot of like white person stereotypes. Because if you think about it, there's like, so Posey is like this super like
flower child,
mother, like boho white like hippie chick, which is like still very made fun of today, where it's this kind of super out of touch, like where you think that you're super like earthy and like that kind of like woke, like fake woke kind of thing.
Oh yeah, like all the people who live in that space with that, like the Brian Posehn character is kind of like an otaku kind of guy.
Yeah, exactly. And like, yeah, he's like the neckbeard nerd guy.
Yeah.
And then you have like Kevin.
Andy French, the struggling white cartoonist.
I have known so many fucking Andys in my life, being a cartoonist in New York. I've known so many of these like white like 20-something dudes who are like who think they are just like hot shit in a champagne glass and are like, why hasn't anyone discovered me and my enormous talent yet? And like, but at the same time, they're like douchebags and alienate all of their friends because they're like cocky and think they're owed the world because they're an edgy boy who like drinks beers and like smokes weed.
Second use of douchebag.
Yeah, it's exactly second use of douchebag. Like Andy French is a humongous douchebag. And like I didn't really get into Mission Hill until college. And so I was like living contemporary to kind of what Andy French's reality was, and I expected to really identify with him, and oh boy did I not identify with him. I identified him as like uncomfortable one night stands I've had, but like God no, he's like a perfect like alt cartoonist douchebag. Which is what makes the show fun, because nothing ever goes well for him.
No. And
like it's another asshole zoo show, like Always Sunny.
Right. And if anything, I identify more with Kevin French's brother.
Yeah, I identify with Kevin a lot. And also Kevin, let's call Kevin who he is, Griffin fucking McElroy.
Yes. Yeah. The first episode, and again, Mission Hill show that if you want to check it out is readily available on YouTube, just saying, but you should support Bill Oakley's and Josh Weinstein's other projects. You can check them out over on Twitter.
To go back, just to like wrap up the conversation we had before, if you're one of our listeners and you know you're a fan of cartoons and you're a person of color and you are like a fan of Mission Hill, comment, talk about like does like I don't know, does the
what appeals to you about it?
Yeah, what appeals to you about it? Like, do you also see like kind of a mockery of white stereotypes? Because definitely, like, especially watching it now in this like current sort of socio-political climate, like I can really see a lot of like similarities, and I think that this show is really ahead of its time in terms of like what it deals with socially, which is pretty cool.
Oh, absolutely.
And also, that brings us into something that at least like, because you know. I'm talking out my ass, you know, I'm not a person of color. If I said anything stupid, please correct me and I will change the way I speak, just as a disclaimer. But now something that I can absolutely talk about, being gay, and Mission Hill has two of the best written gay characters.
Yes.
Like ever. Holy fucking shit. And we need to talk about how this show nailed a queer relationship. In like 1999.
They nailed it because it's so casual and so sort of unspoken. But
it's
not
so
even
fucking real.
But not even in a we're not going to talk about it, but it's there kind of way. Like in a this is just a part of what's going on. Like this is a gay couple.
It's like no, like this is my husband and he's a fucking idiot and I love him, but he's stupid and he's my wonderful stupid husband. Like it's so good.
They put the emphasis on the characters first.
Exactly. Characters first, relationship second, and then because of the characters, the relationship becomes interesting. Like,
and even
so to Claire, yeah. So let's. Do you want to? I'm gonna pet my dog really quick. She's
okay. Well, I was just gonna say, even in the first episode, something that's very striking is the sort of progressiveness of a lot of the jokes. Like, there's a whole... basically, the first episode is Andy French is a struggling cartoonist, and he learned, he just moved to this place, Mission Hill, which is sort of like a hippie, almost like a Williamsburg type place.
Well, it's like, I think it's in kind of like the Bay Area of California.
Yeah, but today it would probably be Williamsburg, I would assume. But yeah, the Bay Area, and...
I don't know about Williamsburg. I'd probably say maybe Bed-Stuy.
Well, okay.
No, like gentrified Bed-Stuy.
Yeah, definitely gentrified, though. But...
like the super gentrified parts of Bed-Stuy, I would say, for sure. Like around Pratt.
Yeah, but basically...
Where I used to live and left when it became, like, hipster town. And it's a different show.
But yeah, so he moves to hipster town, and then... learns that he also has to take care of his brother, his younger brother, who's going to live with him and his roommates now. And obviously, like, he doesn't want to do that. It causes trouble. In the first episode, they have a brilliant conceit of his brother Kevin wants to be cool, and he's throwing a party. He's trying to sort of mac on this girl, and Kevin keeps getting in the way. Kevin gets drunk. Then Andy has to sort of be a responsible adult and take care of that situation. But while Kevin's drunk, he's having all these, like, crazy experiences at the party. And there's one scene where he goes up to this gay guy and he's like, there were a lot of great homos throughout history. He's like, Alexander the Great was a homo, Oscar Wilde was a homo, and you know who else is? You big homo. And then the gay guy's like, please stop, that word is very offensive. If you continue, I will have to punch you, or like something like that. And it's like, that's a really cool, like just sort of laying the cards on the table. Like, yeah, this is funny because he's drunk and there's an actual repercussion coming to it.
Well, yeah, like that's like what I was saying earlier about the whole asshole zoo thing, where like shows like Always Sunny and like Trailer Park Boys, where like everyone is doing super problematic, like dumb fucking bullshit. But the joke is, look at these dumb fucking idiots.
Right.
Like look at these asshole people doing asshole things. Aren't you glad that you're not an asshole and making a fool of yourself like this person? Kind of like Curb Your Enthusiasm. That kind of like social cringe, but like not necessarily like cringe humor now, where it's like making fun of like nerds, which is like mean. Or like making fun of people who might like be neuroatypical, which is super, super mean.
Right.
But
like
this
Mission
is like
Hill's...
making fun of people who would make fun of those people.
Right. Mission Hill did a very good job of sort of poking fun at the pretension.
Yeah.
Like there were a lot of plot lines about like one of my favorites is Andy does this cartoon and he's showing it off to people, or he does a comic and he's showing it off, and nobody gets the joke. And he's like, "Come on, it's Kafkaesque." Like, and they're like, "What the hell are you talking about?" And then like Kevin's like, "I could draw something funny." He's like, "No, you can't." And Kevin just like changes the caption to be like, it's like a guy at a butcher shop. It just says, "Please no meat touching, ma'am." And he's like, it's funny because it's double entendre, and like that gets a bigger laugh.
Yeah, no, because and I think that a lot of that can serve as lessons as like a cartoonist in general, where like you might overthink something and really like pat yourself on the back for like a sneaky reference or something, but that doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be accessible, because it's something that I also have to like. I'm a huge fucking art hoe, and like I love that like high concept, surrealist bullshit, but like I also understand that not everyone's going to understand that, and not everyone's going to relate to that. So, there needs to be a balance, and you need to have both kind of, and remembering things like that are like helps keep me from getting onto my like, it helps me from becoming Andy-esque, because that's not what I want to be, And because I also feel like I could have easily gone down that slippery slope, like if I didn't become self-aware as like a person, like socially, or like started to actually like focus on like how the world actually works instead of how I want it to work, or like I don't know if that's the right way of saying it. But
the way I was thinking about it was and this is more specific to writing. But there's an expression where it's like you have to kill your darlings. Where it's like, you may think something is so precious, but if you're thinking that way, then you're probably maybe doing something wrong. Like you need to be able to sort of take a step back and go, like, is this actually going to resonate with an audience? Like, are people going to get this? Like, there's something to the idea that someone like Stephen King has sold, millions of books, but someone who thinks he may be better than Stephen King because he's a little more clever or, maybe has more high concept ideas, probably won't ever get to that level of notoriety because they are so stuck in sort of sticking to very pretentious high concept ideas.
Exactly. And I think that you see that a lot in the art community as well. Just even with visuals, where like thinking that something has to look a certain way in order for it to be seen as like legitimate. And, that also actually could kind of push into Mission Hill's artistic style as well, because
I love it.
I love it. And it's super, super different. And it almost like the inking quality has been obviously a huge inspiration to me. Like I am very into that sort of like brushy inking style, but it looks almost like Dan Clow's comics a bit at some points, which is really exciting because it kind of like it's like holding up a mirror to the industry at the time, the alt comics industry at the time. So it was exciting.
For me, it's the bodies. I love how bodies are drawn in that show because they look so awkward that I love it.
Yeah, no one looks hot.
No, they have like these squash torsos.
Everyone's like wobbly, and it's funny. It's a really interesting way of like drawing it. I also love Kevin's weird like wrinkly head.
Yes,
it's so cute. Like it's a weird fucking show, and honestly, looking at it now, like I can totally tell why it got canceled, like why it didn't appeal, because it is in itself like too high concept for what the audience was looking for at the time, I think. Right. Or like, I don't think that kind of like people weren't looking to cartoons for this kind of shit.
Right, like the show itself could fly directly over someone's head.
Like if it were a live action comedy, I think it might have been maybe more successful, but at the same time, like
wouldn't have been able to do what they were able to do.
Exactly. I would love to see another show like this, like a kind of modern, who knows, maybe I'll do something, I don't know, but like a kind of modernized version of this sort of thing where like, like I guess like another cartoon asshole zoo show. And, I also like would definitely appreciate sort of a more diverse cast in general too would be nice. Like instead of just a gay relationship, more different types of queer relationships, more people of color in general. And I think that that's super like within reach as well. Like I very much see a show like that coming out, and I guess maybe BoJack Horseman might do that. I don't know. I haven't really seen much of it.
Yeah, I haven't seen much of BoJack Horseman either.
Yeah, I don't know. But it's definitely an interesting niche to fill, and I think Mission Hill has inspired. I think it's inspired a lot of people within that niche. Like, I think it definitely is a cartoon show for cartoonists in a lot of ways.
Oh yeah, and just like we haven't even touched on really the humor in it.
The Real World episode, holy shit!
Yeah, where Andy goes on the Real World, and they find a VHS tape of him being on the Real World.
Mm-hmm. And then at the same time, like. It's so literal with its jabs that it's taking. So it's like a TV network taking very clear jabs at another TV network that is still like active.
Yeah, because they were like, "Oh, Andy went on The Real World, not
The Real
fake
World
show.
on MTV."
Yeah.
And then at the end with the whole like everybody hurts.
Yes.
Where I guess Jay, my fiance, was telling me about this. How like. In the show, when there's a character that gets in an accident, and there was they were planning on playing that song like "Everybody Hurts" like while he was in the ambulance or whatever, but they couldn't, I guess, like legally do that. So they had another song, or was it for the DVD release or something like that? So, or the VHS release or some release, they couldn't do it. So they put a different song during that, and then at the very end of the episode, all the characters just start singing "Everybody Hurts."
Yes, I remember. Yes.
Sometimes everybody cries. Like it's bizarre. And like when I was watching it, I had no idea what the fuck was going on. It took someone to explain it to me. It was really fucking funny when I learned the story behind it.
Oh, such a good show.
It's
Even
really
like,
weird.
like I'll still say Bling Blong to this day.
Oh yeah, but the whole bling blong thing is also like it's a sensory like blockout thing, and it's kind of cool because I think Kevin, like I see a lot of myself in Kevin in terms of also like anxiety and like sensory input overload things, and like I don't know, he's a very relatable kind of like neurodivergent nerd, and it's fun to have a character like that isn't necessarily like mocked.
Right.
You know, that being said, like the show does fall into a lot of like 90s TV problems. But, you know, I guess like if you're a fan of a lot of 90s TV and a lot of 90s like shows in general, like cartoons and live action shows, you kind of learn to like block out.
Yeah, and it certainly is more self-aware than a lot of other shows from that time.
Yeah, I would definitely agree with that. It's I don't know if I can compare it to any other like adult cartoons at the time besides like The Simpsons. It's very Simpsons-y, I'd say,
for obvious reasons.
In terms of, like awareness, and also like I guess as I was mentioning before, like in like Mission Hill being a really white show, it's like in the same way like The Simpsons is, where there are characters like from different backgrounds, but they're not necessarily like they can be like stereotypical, but it's interesting because there are some characters that do break stereotypes, which is really, really nice.
But then there's
and
like
very well intentioned, at least.
Yeah, but then there's like the stereotypical like foreign Eastern European guy who
there's a lot of
owns a waterbed store or whatever, you know.
And then the owner of the convenience store is like this like big like Asian like dad, and they don't really like I guess specify like anything about him except that he's like an Asian convenience store owner, which is like okay, like
I know.
Like, like Asian man.
Yeah, and I understand that like some people's rebuttal to that sometimes is that, you know, oh, they're drawing from experience and like, oh, you know, you do always see the Asian guy at the convenience store, but and it's like, yeah, but you could try a little harder.
Like you could make him more like less of a one-dimensional stereotype, or like make him, I guess, more like relatable instead of like, you know, because I find characters like that are generally made like thoroughly unlikable in a lot of ways, which is really frustrating. And I think it's important, even if you like a show a lot, to talk about stuff like this. And this extends past Mission Hill, but just in general. And I think that like the conversations we've been having about Mission Hill is a good like jumping off point to just talk about this in general. Like you can like a show and think a show is good, even if it still has like problematic elements in it. You just need to recognize that they're there and recognize them for what they are. That doesn't mean you can't enjoy a thing. It means that you recognize that the thing has problems and you don't necessarily enjoy those parts, but you can enjoy the other parts, you know?
Yeah.
And like, I don't know. I think that a lot of people don't necessarily like know if they can create that distinction, you know, where they feel like they can distance themselves. And I think that, you know, if you're able to, if you are able to emotionally and you haven't been beaten down to the extent where you just can't like compartmentalize things like that, I don't know.
Well, there's the I always go back to there's the context too. Like if you're gonna I use the example of, you know, when they re-released the Warner cartoons, and they had that, you know, on the DVD release, I think it was they had Whoopi Goldberg pop in and be like, look, you know, this is part of history, you know, so we're putting them on this DVD, but you know, because there is sort of a stricter animation, you know, merit, for lack of a better way of putting it, in these cartoons, but just know this is the context, you know, this is why we're keeping them on here. This was not right, we've evolved, but you know, we can't erase history, and we want to show you the warts and all of our history.
Yeah, and I think animation in general has just sort of been just like a whole pot full of like different kinds of shit. And I think that, I don't know, it really does depend on the context, and it's important to consider when sort of diving into talking about animation as well, and just animation history in general. There's a lot of like...
And there are limits, too, where it's like, you know, you look at Mission Hill and we're talking about, you know, okay, it was pretty progressive, but they would still have, you know, stereotypes of certain people here and there. But is that enough to completely turn someone off of a show in the same way that, like, I hear people now talk about something like Faulty Towers, like the sitcom from the 70s.
Oh,
where people go, I can't watch that anymore because one of the main characters was Manuel, and that really, like, irked me. And it's like that I get, because that was such a central
Although I'm
part
pretty
of that
sure
show.
Manuel is like also like he's white.
Right.
I'm sure.
Right, he's white. Right, so that adds a whole other
Yeah.
layer on that as well.
But I mean, also in general, the character I think is white. Well, maybe not. No, because he's from Spain. That's like a whole gray area. Either way, it's problematic.
It's definitely problematic, but that's also another example of, you know, not that it was right back then, but can you look past that? Should you look past that? I think people, when it comes to things in the past that are not being created right now, that are sort of already sealed in amber, you kind of have to make that up for yourself.
Yeah, exactly. It really comes down to like things that were created in the past, I think.
Like if like if you did that now, if Faulty Towers was out now,
I would be like,
it would be like, are you fucking kidding me?
Terrible. Yeah, like, are you fucking joking? But like in England in the 1970s, like it isn't, I guess, it doesn't hold as much weight because it's not happening currently to that extent, because it is happening, but
even
just not.
And to take it back to Osomatsu-San, like in that first episode, and again, I've only seen that one episode, so I don't even have reference for that. But I got the sense, so please correct me if I'm wrong, that they made it seem like the original series had some politically incorrect elements that would not fly now, and that's what they were kind of referring to, of like, oh, we need to change, we need to like be different. That it wasn't just a commentary on like style has changed and times have changed. I never really
saw it like that. That's an interesting way to look at it. I'll probably go back and rewatch it and think of it from that perspective.
Well, I think from my perspective, it was also that they were talking about that, and then in that same scene, big Asian man with giant buck teeth came out.
Oh, so this is actually an interesting situation. So that isn't what that is. That's so. That's a character. That's how he looks. That's how he's always looked. That's how he continues to look. That's just his teeth. Right. He's not like a stereotype character, but it sucks because I've drawn him and people are like, what the fuck did you just draw, Matt?
Right,
like,
right, exactly.
Like, no. So to be clear, it's not that. Oh my God. Iyami just like, his whole thing is he wants to be French.
Okay, I could see that.
It's very weird. You have to watch the show. He has a whole thing, but it's one of those things where it's like, at first glance, it looks really weird, though.
Yeah, because really
okay, but it's, you know, yeah. He's a Japanese character created by Japanese people.
Right, exactly.
It's not making fun of, and it's not like fucking Dr. Seuss is like World War II propaganda shit.
Yeah, definitely not that.
This got to be an intense episode. Whoa. But once again, I really think it's important to talk about stuff like this in the context of cartoons as well. Because, like, I think people are like, oh yeah, South Park is like racist. Oh yeah, Family Guy is racist. Like, no shit. Let's talk about our like overall kind of social consciousness in cartoons, like for kids and from the 90s and in general, and how it like works through history. I think we should fucking do an episode about that, honestly. I have some friends I would love to bring on to talk about this. Especially actually I have one specifically in mind.
Especially because when we talked about it before, you know, you bring up shows like Family Guy and South Park, who, you know, some people might find problematic elements with today, but it's like, I guarantee a lot of those people fucking loved it.
Oh yeah, I used to be.
I loved it.
but like certain episodes in a certain era. There was a time where South Park was getting really queer, like genuinely, before they kind of like took it too far with the trans episode. I have a lot of like feelings about the more recent one, but like there were some that whole interesting things. Like the what was it? There was that one episode about conversion therapy that was really interesting.
Yeah, that was interesting. Yeah, they don't have the best record when it comes to portraying trans characters.
I don't know. As a kid, the conversion therapy episode really like resonated with me, like as being like queer and having and like closeted. It was interesting.
Well, it's like I go back to, because for me, like the episode, or an episode of something like that for me was the gay episode of The Simpsons of John Waters.
Oh God, yeah.
Which is such a great episode, but I bet if you did that episode today, word for word and like beat for beat, some people would come out and go like, this portrayal is a little too like fey and on the nose. But but like at the time, and I still think going back, I still defend it. Like going back, like it still does a pretty commendable job of bringing gay acceptance to the forefront at a time when it just was not, where like even in a Democratic administration, like was off the table completely. Yeah.
Oh, totally. And I mean, The Simpsons has always really walked that line. It's very weird, but like, I guess since we're kind of wrapping up, to like go into like to give some homework, I guess, to continue to talk about like, I guess to connect to like cartoons and Simpsons and 90s and stuff. Watch the that documentary I think with Hari Kondolobu about Apu. Let me find the exact title of
which I did not see and had erroneously heard that what's his face? Hank Azaria had a good reaction too.
No, he did not. So, okay, so
yeah, and then learned that it was completely the opposite.
If you're a Simpsons fan, this is absolutely must see, like must watch. If you are a Simpsons fan who remotely cares about people other than yourself, it's like required viewing. And also just it talks a lot about like the greater, social consciousness of comedy, and especially in cartoons where there's a huge temptation as a cartoonist to fall back on stereotypes because it's quote unquote easy communication. It please put in the extra effort. It will make a world of difference, and you will save a lot of people a lot of hurt and harassment, because what came from Apu, like a lot of people who watch The Simpsons, like who are Simpsons fans, will see Apu and be like, wow, what a fucking like funny character. What a like funny dude. Haha. If you're like watch the documentary to really get a genuine perspective. Cause I'm not a South Asian person.
Well, yeah. If you're of a certain skin color, it must like, that's the, like Simpsons has perpetuated consistently the single like stereotype for the past like 30 years.
Speaking from a trans perspective, it's like if someone comes to me and only talks to me about like Boys Don't Cry and Chaz Bono, I'm like, okay, cool, bye.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
Like, yeah, watch that movie.
Super
good.
That and what's the harm in what? Because I know some people here like, oh, you gotta check out this documentary on different like I almost say cultural appropriation, but I don't think it's technically under that realm. But like, you got to watch this like social justice-y documentary on a show you like that might ruin the show you like. And it's like, first off, it's not going to ruin The Simpsons. Exactly. It's going to give you a different perspective. And you know what? If you watch it and you walk away still going, I'm fine with how I've always enjoyed The Simpsons, then fine. It didn't change your mind. That's, you go on living your life. There's no,
listen to perspectives of other people, so your life doesn't become just a mirror.
That's what, and I like, some people may know of a comedian, Todd Glass. I love Todd Glass. I've gotten to interview him twice. Very progressive comedian, very, just has a great head on his shoulders. And he talks about how, in relation to, let's say, the abortion issue or the gun rights issue, that he would respect someone on the other side like Ted Cruz or Marco Rubio a lot more if Marco Rubio came out and said, you know what, I did the homework. I went and I met with these people, and I met with families who were affected by gun violence, and I met with people who had to get abortions under different circumstances, and you know, I still came to the same conclusion. You know, Todd was telling me that he would have to at least give them a little respect and be like, you know what, at least that guy, you know, I don't agree with him, but at least that guy fucking did his homework. Like, nobody wants to do the homework. Nobody wants to at least hear someone out. Like, nobody wants to test their convictions up against something that they may feel a little uncomfortable with because they're afraid it might actually change their mind. Oh my God.
Yeah, we're evolving perpetually as human beings, and just like, I don't know, try and make your impact as a person a little less stressful for someone else. Like, God, just like try and be an ally for people. Try and help. And
what's
cartoons are a really dope way to do that, I think. And I think that just showing kids and showing also just even cartoons for adults and comics for adults, representation really matters. Voice really matters. Perspective really matters. Do your research. Make sure you understand your perspective and where you're coming from. And if you're telling stories that are yours to tell or not, do that before you even start your project.
And I not to go off on a tangent, but I hate the excuse.
Oh, no, not to go off on a tangent.
But here's these 900 numbers. But but I really hate when people go, you know, oh well, you know, they want me to put in all this extra effort, and it's a lot of work to like learn all the new pronouns and change the way I speak. And it's like, first off, I would bet money that most people who are queer, you know, trans, outside what is, you know, cis heteronormative, just want you to try and put in the effort. Like, nobody's asking anyone to be perfect, but everyone wants you to have compassion and have a little more empathy and put some kind of effort to evolve and realize that things are changing. Well, you know,
the best way I can ever think to explain it is like, there's a post that's been floating around that's just like, I don't know how to explain to you that you should care about other people.
Yeah.
That's it. That's literally all it is. And, you know, I don't know. I know we go on tangents a lot, and I know that we like, I don't know, talk about social justice shit, but we're a couple of dirty SJWs, and that's just what we fucking do. No, but like, you know, the fact of the matter is we're two queer millennials, for lack of a better word, who like cartoons, and I think that there's just a lot of us who have a lot to say.
Just be a good fucking person. Like, nobody's... Again, my whole thing is nobody's asking you to be perfect. I'm not perfect. Do I have to... And this is something that I appreciate about you, and why I think you're such a good friend, is because knowing you has allowed me to become more aware of how I talk to people. Because sometimes I, you know, in a catty way, would, regardless of someone's, you know, queer or boy or girl or whatever, I would use expressions like, oh, hey girl, you know, like stuff like that. And to be a little more aware and realize, oh, maybe they might take that a different way that I'm, you know, presenting it. Like, that's not the worst thing in the world to look at yourself and go, oh, well, maybe I should start using more words like they or dude or something, or, you know, something like that.
That's awesome. Thank you so much, dude.
Like there's a little more awareness about it. And you know what? Sometimes I do catch myself because, again, we're not perfect. We're all going to slip. But, again, I don't think anyone's asking anyone else to be perfect. I think there's just a level of empathy that you need to show. Like, what you do need to show is that you're putting forth that effort. Because, quite frankly, it's not a ton of effort.
Build good habits. Build better habits.
Build good habits. It's habitual. Once you start referring to people in a more general sense, you know, use they, them, you know.
Your emotional diet.
Yeah, your emotional diet. Because you know what? I do understand to a certain extent, like, you know what? Maybe you don't want to learn all the pronouns. Maybe it is a little overwhelming for you. You come from a certain kind of background. It could seem like things are moving too fast. You know, okay. But you could still refer to people as just they, them. You know, you could ask someone. I feel like, you know, I don't think it's out of the ordinary or rude to, when you meet someone who, you know is queer, to be like, oh, and by the way, what are your pronouns? What do you prefer? Like, I think that's becoming more common parlance with people.
Oh yeah, totally. Right now I'm just like, wow, what a cartoon podcast, Betty. What a cartoon podcast. I'm really fucking digging this, cartoon discussion.
I know, this is more this has been more buffoon than cartoon. This
I know, really. But I don't know. The episode is what it is.
Yeah.
I hope you guys liked it. I had fun at least talking to my friend, so
yeah.
This is a good day.
and I'd like to give a shout out to someone who is a listener.
Listener shout outs, let's do it.
Listener shout out, because they did something for I believe it was the Atlantic very recently. Tynesha Foreman.
Yes! Well, fucking Tynesha Foreman is who I want to invite on an episode.
Oh my god, they're the best.
I want them to fucking talk about just Black cartoon culture in general and like being a cartoon fan of color, and I really want to hear them do a whole fucking episode on it. So
they did some really amazing stop motion recently.
Yeah. Look up. Yeah, let me see if I can just honestly. All right, let me see. Nearshot is generally what they go by. Yeah, let me fucking pull up this shout out. I want to make sure. So yeah, nearshotarts.com, nearshotarts.com. Super good friend of ours. Super just awesome, lovely, warm, kind, funny person. Incredible woman, incredible animator, illustrator. Check her out. Really hope to have her as a guest on this podcast, like as soon as possible.
Yeah, just like I love her enthusiasm for everything. Like unfortunately I'm not on Instagram anymore because I just wanted to get rid of one social network, and that was the one that happened to fall. But when I loved seeing her Instagrams because her enthusiasm and like the way she projects and expresses herself is just so like.
Yeah, she's a fantastic artist.
Yeah, it's adorable. I love it. I love people who are enthusiastic about what they do.
She's so unafraid of making gross, creepy shit, and it makes me so happy. There's artists out there who also do the fucking gross, creepy shit. And God, like, I know so many people who I want to have on this podcast. Okay, so we're gonna wrap up.
Yeah.
But I think that, we're planning. I think that now this is the start of a bunch of planning. I want to have some fucking guests on here, and she's definitely going to be like the first, I think.
Yeah. So that's what we got coming up.
Right after we turn this off, and she'll probably be like, sure. I hope she's like, sure, because then we can plan.
I know. I love her voice. I would love to.
She's so cute. Okay. All right. So hi. So I'm Mady, and that's Vin, and we love our friends.
Yes, and this has been Cartoon Buffoons. If you want to follow me, I'm on Twitter at MightyVin. I also do a podcast anytime with Vin Forte. That's on iTunes and Daps.tv. Check that out. And you.
I am on Twitter and Tumblr as Mady G Comics. That is MADYG Comics. The Invader Zim issue number 28 is out. The one that I drew, and that was written by Sam Logan, author of Sam and Fuzzy, and colored by Fred C. Stressing, colorist extravaganza man, who did work on the Munchkin comic, as well as many others, and is a regular colorist on Invader Zim, and a friend of mine. So very exciting stuff. New comic was out for the Nib recently about dating while trans and just trans inclusive relationships. You can find that, I believe, pinned on my Twitter. This was a big month for stuff for me, so that's why I'm just rattling it all off.
I love you did the polygon characters.
Yeah, I'm doing a bunch of character designs. It's just a bunch of shit.
You're working on a book?
Working on a book out of the shell, often misnamed Queer Health Field Guide, which was the working title. That's not the title anymore. It's out of the shell, and it's due for release in spring 2019, I think. It got pushed back. But
that's just more time to make it better.
That's all my fucking plugs. And once again, my friend Tynesha, our friend Tynesha, who we were talking about, nearshotarts.com, NEARSHOTARTS, Nearshot Arts. Very great artist. Hire her for animation work.
Yes, hire her for your animation work. And are you
great clients, good
Yes.
resume.
Yeah. And are you also doing commissions now? Because I know you're working on the book, but also that the Invader Zim comic was the main thing holding you up for a little while.
The only way to know is to message me and see if I have space on my schedule. If I do, I will take you. If I don't, I will let you know and we can work something out.
Rates are very affordable. You would be a big stupid idiot not to.
That's a great way to keep good. Good. All right. Well, that's I think we've talked about asshole in one way, asshole in two ways. I think Vin and I are both asshole the third way.
Yes. We're all assholed out.
We're all assholed out for today. And so, as always, this was Cartoon Buffoons.
And with that said...
Stop!
Oh, that's going to be the last thing I hear as I die.